If there is one thing that draws as much attention as a country's beauty, it is dirt. All it takes is a video on the internet to see shocking scenes. People cooking on filthy sidewalks, children playing in sewers, rivers black with trash. India, for example, keeps popping up on your timeline with scenes like this. But the truth is that, despite its problems, it is not the dirtiest country in the world. Not even the second or third. The list of places where dirt is part of the landscape goes far beyond what you might imagine. And today, Bello Mundo will take you on a journey through the 10 dirtiest countries on the planet. But before we begin, it's worth explaining the criteria. We're not just talking about paper on the ground or bad smells. This selection was made based on an international environmental quality ranking compiled by the Swiss company IQAir, which evaluates dozens of countries based on criteria such as air pollution, garbage accumulation, lack of sanitation, open sewers, contaminated water. In short, everything that makes the environment dirty, dangerous, and almost impossible to live in with dignity. Number 10. Burundi. We start this list in Africa, in a country that is small on the map, but huge when it comes to dirt and unbreathable air. Burundi, nestled in the heart of East Africa, is a stark portrait of environmental neglect. And you don't even need to look very hard to see it. There, practically everyone cooks as if they were in the 18th century, burning wood or charcoal. Almost 100% of families use solid fuel inside their homes. The result is a constant haze of smoke covering entire villages, a veritable blanket of soot in the air. To make matters worse, as there is no formal garbage collection, the only option is to burn waste in the open or throw it into rivers. And the smell of all this mixed with wood smoke, better not to imagine. Burundi also holds the title of one of the poorest and most densely populated countries in the world. Per capita waste generation is low, of course, but what little is produced ends up in vacant lots or contaminated streams. And basic sanitation, almost a legend. Breathing there is like smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. Air pollution is about 8 times higher than the limit considered safe by the World Health Organization. And that says a lot. Number 9. Rwanda. At first glance, Rwanda is deceiving. The streets are clean, plastic bags have been banned since 2008, and even cleaning campaigns are organized every month. In Kigali, the capital, it is rare to see trash lying around, but just look up and the scene changes. The problem here is not on the ground, but in the air. A gray haze hangs over the country like a sad curtain. The culprit, the rampant burning of wood and charcoal. Almost all of Rwanda's energy comes from biomass, that is, from the smoke coming straight from the clay stoves in rural homes. Farmers also contribute by burning crop residues to clear the land. Every evening, what descends is not natural fog, but soot accumulated on the hills. And because Rwanda is mountainous, the polluted air gets trapped in the valleys as if it were bottled. Ultimately, the country breathes air that is up to 8 times more polluted than the limit considered safe by the World Health Organization. In other words, no matter how clean the ground is, the lungs of the population remain dirty. And here's the warning, there's no point in banning plastic bags if survival still depends on fire and smoke. Moving a little further up the map, we come to another neighbor in East Africa, larger and more populous, where the situation is not much different when it comes to air pollution. Number 8. Uganda. Uganda is one of those places where all types of pollution seem to converge, starting with the capital, Kampala, which is home to more than 6 million people and traffic that borders on chaos. The streets are crowded with old cars, trucks belching black smoke as if they were on fire, and thousands of motorcycles with no emission controls. On normal days, it's like breathing in the middle of a giant exhaust pipe. The situation is made worse by the burning of garbage and the continued use of wood and charcoal for cooking. In virtually every home, the stove is smoke-based. As the garbage collection service cannot cope, the trash ends up being piled up on vacant lots and burned right there. And the smell? A mixture of melted rubber and dry brush. On the outskirts of Kampala, this is the everyday fragrance. The potholed dirt roads still kick up enough dust to keep the sky overcast, even when there are no clouds. As a result, the air there is about 8 times more polluted than the limit considered safe by the World Health Organization. And unlike neighboring countries such as Rwanda, Uganda cannot even hide the visible trash. There is dirt everywhere, sanitation is lacking, and what isn't on the streets is floating in the air. The country breathes soot, bottles sewage, and still lives with thousands of deaths caused by pollution every year. Number 7. Nepal. Nepal is synonymous with epic mountains, ancient temples, and breathtaking nature, and unfortunately that last part is literal. In Kathmandu, the capital, taking a deep breath is almost an act of courage. The city lies in a valley surrounded by mountains, which looks beautiful from a distance, but becomes a serious problem when the smoke has nowhere to go. The air there is trapped, heavy, full of dust and smoke, especially in the driest months. Some days you can barely see the Himalayas in the background, just a yellow sky covered by a brown cloud of dirt. And keep in mind that the average Nepalese produces very little waste per day. But even with little waste, the collection system cannot cope. When the dump is full or the waste pickers stop working, garbage bags begin to pile up in the streets. And if it rains, this garbage turns into disgusting mud that runs through the alleys and attracts rats and flies. In addition, many people still cook with firewood, which releases more smoke into the air. And what about sewage? Much of it goes straight into the city's rivers, such as the Bagmati, which has practically become a canal of black water. So, while tourists climb the mountain trails in search of fresh air, those who live in the capital have to breathe smoke, live with garbage scattered around, and watch their rivers turn into sewers. Leaving the Himalayan mountains and heading to Central Asia, we find the next country on the list. It is a country that is less talked about when it comes to pollution, but it appears in the ranking thanks to a combination of its Soviet legacy and unsustainable practices. Number 6. Tajikistan. Tajikistan is one of the Central Asian countries that inherited a large part of the heavy industry left behind by the former Soviet Union. Along with this legacy, it also inherited a major environmental problem. Although little talked about, the country ranks firmly among the 10 countries with the worst air quality in the world. In winter, it is so cold that practically everyone depends on coal and firewood to heat their homes. In the capital, Dushanbe, a huge part of the pollution comes from these domestic chimneys. Every wood-burning stove and coal heater releases its share of smoke into the air, which gets trapped in the valleys like a lid. But the problem goes beyond smoke from homes. Tajikistan is home to one of the largest aluminum factories in the region, the famous TALCO. The pollutants it releases have even prompted complaints from neighboring countries, which say they suffer from acid rain on their crops. What's more, mining, chemical industries, and poor enforcement mean that rivers are contaminated and the air is even heavier. Parts of the country are dry and desert-like, which contributes to dust storms that arrive laden with fine sand. Dushanbe may seem peaceful at first glance, but the air is thick and dirty. Garbage is dumped in open fields, recycling is minimal, and sewage goes straight into the rivers. So far, we have visited places that are little talked about, but which are immersed in smoke, garbage, and environmental neglect. But now the game changes. We enter the top 5, and from here on out, it's big-time filth. To kick off this new stage of the list, we go straight to a country where filth is everywhere. From the ground covered in feces to the clouds of pollution that hide the sky in the largest cities. Number 5. India. India is huge in every way. Ancient culture, millions of inhabitants, technological advances, and, unfortunately, mountains of dirt everywhere. Just walk through any city to see it. Dirt is in the air, on the streets, in the rivers, literally everywhere. The problem starts with the basics. Sanitation. For decades, more than half the population had no access to a bathroom. That's right, hundreds of millions of people relieving themselves outdoors, on roadsides, vacant lots, and riverbanks. We can imagine the result. Strong odors, feces scattered everywhere, and the constant risk of disease. The government has even created campaigns to change this, such as Swachh Bharat, which promised to build millions of latrines. Things have improved a little. But even today, India leads the world in untreated human waste. In feces alone, there are more than 120,000 tons per day. To make matters worse, many people work cleaning up this waste by hand, without any protection. Some people earn less than 50 cents a day to stick their hands in sewers. But the dirt isn't just on the ground. The air in Indian cities is among the most polluted in the world. In New Delhi, for example, the sky is often covered with smoke for weeks. The mixture of burning straw in the fields, old vehicles, and construction transforms the capital into a gas chamber. Some days, breathing there is like smoking a pack of cigarettes. And then there's the water. The Ganges River, considered sacred, has become a dead river. It carries sewage, garbage, industrial waste, and even corpses. Millions bathe in these waters believing in purification, but what they find is a brown soup of bacteria. India has been making efforts to change, but the challenge is enormous. When the problem involves more than 1 billion people, any solution seems too small. Number 4. Democratic Republic of Congo. The Democratic Republic of Congo is huge, rich in minerals, home to the second largest rainforest in the world, and at the same time one of the poorest and most polluted countries on the planet. The dirt there doesn't just come from scattered trash, but from a heavy set of problems: deforestation, smoke, sewage, and toxic dust. More than 80% of the population still depends on firewood and charcoal for cooking. Every evening, entire villages are covered in a haze of smoke from the stoves lit in millions of homes, and deforestation only makes the situation worse. Illegal burning, logging, and subsistence farming clear areas of forest and release even more soot into the air. The situation of the rivers is critical. With almost no one having access to treated sewage, rivers such as the Congo have become open sewers. In Kinshasa, a megacity with more than 17 million inhabitants, it is common to see garbage floating in streams and children playing near ditches. Mining also takes its toll. Cobalt dust, copper, and toxic waste spread across the soil and water. In 2021, a tailings accident in Angola polluted rivers in the Congo, killing fish and affecting thousands of families. A very rich country, suffocated by its own filth. Number 3. Pakistan. In third place on the podium is Pakistan, a country where pollution has become almost a permanent state of the atmosphere. Lahore, for example, turns into a smoke pot every winter. A brown haze covers everything, the result of an explosive mixture of old cars, agricultural burning, industrial smoke, and a lack of wind to disperse the poison. Just to give you an idea, the country has recorded average concentrations of fine particles exceeding 70 micrograms per cubic meter. That is more than 14 times the limit considered safe. Worse still, these toxic clouds are not confined to one area. In cities such as Karachi, Islamabad, and Lahore, the air stings the throats of those walking in the streets. Children, the elderly, people with asthma, everyone suffers. And don't think it's just the air. Urban waste has also become a huge challenge. In Karachi, a megacity with over 15 million inhabitants, the poorest neighborhoods live with mountains of accumulated waste, often burned in the open air. Plastic bags, organic waste, electronics, rubber, everything is burning in the middle of the street. The smell is suffocating. Sanitation is almost non-existent in many places. Canals and streams have become open sewers, and outside the cities there are still people relieving themselves in the woods. Contaminated water, trash on the sidewalks, and diseases such as hepatitis and cholera complete the picture. The government has promised changes. It has launched reforestation campaigns and tried to restrict older vehicles. But in practice, progress is too slow. Number 2. Bangladesh. If there is one place where pollution has become part of the landscape, it is Bangladesh. For years, the country topped the ranking for the worst air quality on the planet. It recently lost its top spot, but remains firmly among the most polluted. In Dhaka, the capital, the sky seems to have forgotten its blue. It is somewhere between gray and yellow, covered by smoke coming from all directions. Old cars, textile factories burning coal, brick kilns in constant operation, and tons of garbage being burned in the open air. On certain days, the city seems covered in an eternal fog, but it is not fog, it is smoke. On average, Bangladesh registers almost 80 micrograms per cubic meter of fine particles in the air, which is about 15 times the limit considered safe. This shortens the life of the population. But the problem is not only in the air. The rivers are collapsing. Rapid industrialization has made Bangladesh a global textile hub, but it has also turned its waterways into toxic canals. Many factories simply dump chemicals into the rivers. The Buriganga River, which supplies about 180,000 people, has turned into a soup of poison. In industrial neighborhoods like Savar, streams have turned into black, stinking ditches. And even when the government tries to react, such as by requiring treatment plants, it is later discovered that they do not even work. Garbage piles up in the streets. Garbage collection is inadequate, and sewage flows openly. When it rains, everything floods and floats. Garbage, feces, plastic. A breeding ground for disease that runs through the alleys. In the suburbs, this scenario is the norm. Add heat, dirt, and standing water, and outbreaks of dengue fever and cholera are not far behind. It is a country that has grown rapidly, but at the expense of the environment and public health. Although there are tentative signs of improvement, Bangladesh remains firmly in second place in the world rankings for filth. Number 1. Chad. If you thought no country could surpass India, Pakistan, or Bangladesh in terms of filth, you haven't heard of Chad. Located in the heart of the African Sahel, the country recorded an average of 90 micrograms per cubic meter of fine particles, 18 times above the limit recommended by the WHO. What pollutes the air there are not factories or modern cars, but rather the basics. Starting with dust storms from the Sahara Desert, Chad is home to the Baudelaire Depression, one of the largest natural sources of atmospheric dust on the planet. All it takes is a gust of wind, and cities like N'Djamena disappear under a yellow cloud of sand. Added to this is the burning of wood and charcoal for cooking. With little or no electricity available, entire villages use open fires every day. The result is smoke inside homes, in backyards, and on the streets. Domestic air pollution leaks into the environment and affects everyone around. The vehicle fleet is small but extremely polluting. Old pickup trucks and motorcycles without filters circulate on dirt roads, releasing black smoke that mixes with desert dust. And the ground is not spared. Only 1 in 10 people has access to sanitation. Most relieve themselves outdoors. Sewage contaminates rivers, wells, and crops. Chad is now the world champion of dirt, not because it is an industrial powerhouse, but precisely because it lacks the bare minimum. There is a lack of sanitation, clean energy, waste management, and basic conditions for survival. And so we close our list of the dirtiest countries in the world. Now tell me, which one shocked you the most? Did you already know about this reality? Tell us in the comments. And if you liked the video, you know what to do. Subscribe to Bello Mundo, turn on the bell, and see you next time.